Welcome to Season 3 of Little Warriors, the podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Horan. On episode 6, I'm chatting to Deirdre Holland Hannon, who's one of very few Urotherapists in Ireland. Deirdre is also a behaviour specialist working with children and a paediatric continence expert. This chat is so brilliant. I hope you enjoy. And before we start this episode, it's super important to thank Loopy-Loo by Lidl for supporting Little Warriors, the podcast. Loopy-Loo has always been a firm favourite in our household. You can check out the full Loopy-Loo range online where there is more to value. From delicious organic carrot and herb weaning sticks to organic porridge in a sachet when you're on the go, of course affordable changing mats, and nappies from newborn right up to size 8, which we are still using overnight. So thanks again to Loopy-Loo by Lidl. On the podcast today, I've Deirdre Holland Hannon, who is a urotherapist. She's a registered nurse, she's a child behaviour expert, and she is just the all-time goat in this area. And because I've had so many people who are asking questions, parents who are asking questions about this particular area, and with this podcast, Little Warriors, I was like, I need someone who's completely all over it. So that's why I have you. Welcome.
Thank you. That's a lovely intro.
Well, I mean, I've got to big you up. What on earth is urotherapy to start? And then we'll get into everything you do.
Urotherapy is quite new to me as well. I'm only newly qualified in it as of last year. So I studied with the mouthfuls here now. ESPU, so European Society of Paediatric Urology, and the International Children's Continence Society.
Okay, wow.
And basically it is the non-invasive approach to all things bladder and bowel.
Okay.
So when we realise, that it's not a medical reason that a child maybe has had issues with their bowel or their bladder, and it's kind of a combination therapy really when you dig down into it. It is the nursing care, it is the behaviour stuff that we all know as parents affect and influence all these things. Even in ourselves, I think our own temperaments impact our own continence at times. I don't know if you've, it's like even constipation when you go on holidays, or a nervous bladder when you have like something big coming up.
Okay, so this is a totally different way of targeting this and strategy, and it's brilliant for me. I've also spoken to someone on the podcast who will go about this kind of area of constipation and bladder and all that through a very physical, like that it's very much a medical thing and we've got to treat it as such. But I also know from my own experiences as a mama, when there's been issues with late toilet training or bedwetting or constipation, it is usually something that's bothering our child. So it's really interesting to hear that.
It's I suppose, it's a holistic approach really, I guess, but it does have the medical side of it to, as well, make sure. And I suppose for me, I always think of it as like plate spinning. And there's no point in, if you take poo holding or like lots of little wets, constant wetting, or the bedwetting, if you just take those as the one medical thing and say, okay, laxatives, okay, this, okay, that, a lot of the time you don't get that long-term sustainable results, because you get the relapses and the regressions, or we're not getting to the root. Why were they afraid to poo? Bedwetting differs slightly. Unfortunately in Ireland we have so much shame around bedwetting, even though
so much shame about bedwetting.
It's really mad because we've actually quite a high population of bedwetters. But
we don't talk about it. It's poo-pooed, it's embarrassing.
My theory is, and it's very much just a personal opinion, but I do wonder, has it all come from, the Catholic Church? Because we were not allowed to talk
about anything to do with our privates.
I know we really hone in on women's health at the minute and sex, and that we were
only
all,
now,
and we were all, we never got it. We never got the sex education, and we never got the women's education. But I think on top of that, none of us were ever taught about our bladders and our bowel, and I don't think we know what's normal. I think we are a constipated country in general, and then your kid is constipated, you don't know because you're actually constipated.
Okay, that's so interesting. So we know that this is legacy stuff, it's historic. Like we know that women are only now getting treated for and it's a shit show. But we also know that children's health would have been a bit like if there was families of 5, 6, 7, 8, there was no contraception, there was loads of children in the house. no one was talking about Johnny bedwetting. He was probably shamed for it. There was probably punishment.
Sure, like shamed would have been the easy bit. He was probably bet.
Do you know what I mean? It's a thing in our
very
culture.
much, and dirty. You know, things are dirty
it's
and
gross,
you're disgusting, and you should be embarrassed and all the rest.
I remember even children when I was a kid who would pee themselves or get nervous in class, and this is primary school, and it would be that they're the smelly kid or the gross kid.
Sure.
So there's a lot around this.
Sure, and it's funny because I think that lives on today in the parents that I work with, because that was their experience, and now they come to me with so much fear around that, even though it's not even happening for their child yet. So this time of year in particular, well, I love when it happens this time of year because we've loads of time, but this time of year you might start getting the emails about they're starting junior infants in September. So I'm worried now because this actually hasn't resolved and it's going nowhere. Now, I would say to anyone listening, if you do have problems, come now. Don't come in August. Don't come in September. Do come in August. Do come in September. You're never too late. But the pressure that it will come with in August and September to fix the things.
Okay, well, I'm going to use you now. I'm going to get some free medical advice. So I have two gorgeous girls. One who I felt it was quite a realistic approach to toilet training and just got it, right? And that was fine. That's great. One size doesn't fit all.
Sure.
And she's 8 now. And then I have a 4-year-old who was toilet trained very well during the day and I felt like adapted very well, but at night is absolutely not there. And whether that's, our fault or whether there's no fault, but she's just still needing her pull-ups. And by the way, it's quite a common conversation with my pals.
Yep.
How would you approach that? Because there's a fear in like ripping the plaster off and...
Sure, and it comes back again to how badly educated we are. We really are so badly educated around bedwetting. So there is no guarantee that any child will become dry at night because you potty train. They are two different systems.
Okay, that's interesting.
And the day influences the night. So the first thing we would do with her is actually look at her daytime, because any signs of constipation, or if she's not pooing regularly, that will impact her night. Then the second thing we would move on to is her daytime urine voiding. So, what does
holding
that look,
and coming home?
What does that look like? Is there a lot of postponing? Does she go maybe 2 or 3 times a day when she should be going 6 to 8 times a day?
Okay.
Does she, when she's going, is it, or a client I had recently is going really frequently, but too frequently, it's nearly presenting as overactive. So all those things, they're drinking their fluids, are actually the first part you look at for the nighttime. That frustrates parents sometimes because they want us to fix the bedwetting.
Yeah, of course. I'm just fix the problem.
Yeah, and I'm circling back to what they felt was finished with.
It's very hard to track your child who's in creche or junior infants or
really
whatever
tricky.
Of what their day is. And I know my particular little one would really not relish the thought of going in school. And that's just a little fear factor. She's also super young to be in junior infants.
It's really normal.
Yeah, and
really
so she's waiting until she comes home. And I think you're correct. Then there's a lot of it concentrated into a couple of hours, and then she's going to bed, and the need is, but also maybe emotional. This is a bit of a...
Now, research is saying that there isn't any massive psychological connection to bedwetting.
Interesting.
There's a few really good kind of myths being busted at the minute with the bedwetting research. One big one was the myth that it was the deep sleeper. He's so old, they're dead to the world, and
they just can't get up.
And in fairness, if you are there with a live bedwetter, they are like a drunk person if you even try and get them up for a week. So I can understand where the perception came from, but actually now that we are looking into bedwetting in more kind of vast ways in research, it's actually showing that they're the lighter sleepers because their body is still so actively producing urine, and the system is still so, active compared to what it shouldn't be still functioning as it is during the day, and it is for our bedwetters. So there are guys with more disrupted sleep, less quality sleep, whereas we would have been reared with, and I still get it all the time, that they are just such a deep sleeper. And that kind of links into one of the treatments for bedwetting then, which is, looking at the poor arousability. But what we mean by poor arousability is they're not getting the message from the brain to the bladder and the bladder to the brain.
Okay, so you and I are in a deep sleep and I'm lying in soaked sheets. I would know this, right, Dee? I'm going to wake up and be very upset by that, and my body is going to feel that. I'm going to want to... it's never happened to me as an adult, but I'm just saying, wouldn't that devastate us? So is there not the same, is the system very immature? Are they not? Oh, it is, okay.
And it's interoception, so that kind of 8th sense of understanding your body's signals, but it's also I don't know when it was it the last maybe storm we had down in West Limerick, and one of the old alarms that were in the house before we bought it must have still had some battery within it because it was disconnected, but it's over the boys' window. It went off. Nobody woke. It went off for 6 hours. They all stayed asleep.
Wow.
So I can't compare that to me, who lay there for the 6 hours listening to the alarm.
Wow.
And it's very much the same. If you think of their sleep, it's totally different to
So
ours
interesting.
as well.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And I mean, can we compare a mother's sleep to anything anyway? There's everything with Waco's.
Yeah,
You know what
and
I
it's
mean?
broken still, and
You
we're
know,
in that
and we're
stage.
still like
Yeah.
in that heightened state. So
Yeah.
any sensory, but it is different for kids in multiple different reasons. One definitely is interception. Then another is just that pathway from the brain to the bladder. But it is interesting for your little lady. I suppose the big warning I always give is, and I have kind of a handout on it that I tend to give parents, because really they don't probably need a full bedwetting workshop yet. So that's what I try and direct parents to before they come to one-to-one, is to do the education and the training piece through a workshop that I kind of have recorded, so it makes it easy for parents to access. So for real young kids, the just out of potty training, I say you probably don't need the full workshop yet. But here's a handout on what you could check. You could check the bowels, you could check their fluid during the day, and you could check their weeing during the day. And the other thing is, and it is very much, again, research backed there in the evidence, that you can take off the nappy.
Yeah, okay, good. So
For
you're empowering us to take off the nappy
a week to 10 days.
and see how you
Do
get on.
not flog a dead horse, because
Okay.
none of us can suffer that.
Okay, so you're saying take the nappy off, put your, the thingies on, the protections
and I'm all for
on.
doubling your protection, just for your sanity.
Yeah.
So like waterproof sheet. So if there is wetting, you can just strip by.
Yeah, and tell your child, encourage them to shout out and let us know if you need to go to the toilet, and just see how you get on.
And very much
interesting.
even tee it up as, this is just a trial, love. Because this could well be not within their ability. So we don't want to punish them if it's...
If it doesn't work, there's a failure.
There's a few different causes of bedwetting, but then there's also things that influence bedwetting, and the majority of them are out of the child's control. So if it comes to pass, what we're kind of testing with the 7 to 10 days is it learning? So I'm going to take off your nappy. We're just going to see if you can stay dry. Also, a lot of kids are waking up at 5, half 5, 6 a.m. using their nappy out of habit as a toilet. So you're coming in at 6:37, whatever it is, this big heavy nappy.
Yes.
But in fact, it is actually just normal to them. They've been
but
doing
also
it
their
since
normal
birth.
morning wee, so they've, much like when we wake up and need to go straight to the bathroom, that's what's happening.
It's a big one. So
that's interesting.
So that's definitely worth checking. But another thing you can do with that trial is pop the potty beside the bed. It's really, I think we have very high expectations of the youngest kids, in the sense that it is a bit unreasonable to expect them to want to travel the house during the night.
None of us, I don't, the laziness, I'm like, I have to get up.
But if you think about it from their point of view, the dark,
as well,
the cold. I remember being at a course one time, and the lead at the course or workshop was saying, when they really teased down the case that was really treatment resistant, he didn't like the cold tiles.
Yeah.
Just throw down a towel.
Sure, my whole family are on fire. My dog is weeing all over the kitchen again, complete regression. I'm like, why would anyone get up to go to the toilet if it's like monkey see, monkey do?
You need to get a vet.
Listen, I need a therapist to live in the house. I need a vet. I rang her this morning. She was like, Jesus. So you're helping me with this particular situation, which, by the way, I'm throwing out there because I know it's common for a lot of my friendships.
So common. And your situation is I suppose, we oversimplify bedwetting. Hers is really specific, from wetting, not dry yet. We have a few different things to kind of test. Then we have our older guys, which are a different kettle of fish.
Okay, so you got your youngies, but you're still in that kind of...
And there's still potential there. So I guess what the ICCS and ESPU would say is, from 5 on, you probably need to be proactive. Okay. It's now in your recess. Yeah. It's not just potty training. Yeah. And that's what I kind of notice with my clients is, they kind of divide into two of I have my potty trainers, but then really from National School, you have your urotherapy, which is our guys that are that bit older, and you're kind of looking for, I suppose, the whole picture on what they need from the...
Is it like an incontinence? Is that an unfair statement to say, much like an adult?
Absolutely.
So it's an actual inability to control our bladder?
Yeah, and I suppose the way they would phrase it is... they would say they put it really nicely as well, between 10 and 20% of 6-year-olds are unable to stay dry at night. And that's a really much better way of putting it, though, isn't it? They are unable to stay dry at night, rather than saying...
Is that an Irish stat?
No, that's international.
That's nuts.
Yeah. And it's like...
Do you think it's pressure? Do you think there's so much kind of like, we just spoke there about, you know, this whole parenting thing of like getting everything right. Do you think there's just so much pressure on kids that there's a fear factor too?
I mean...
I don't know, that's bizarre to me.
I think kids' lives are a lot busier. And I see that even with our older bedwetters. So if I find, particularly in Ireland, from 10 years on, if a bedwetter gets referred to me or self-refers to me, I find the whole family's in treatment fatigue, because they've been trying for so long with like probably bad information or misdirection, or, you know, non-evidence based, or, you know, kind of obsolete information. They're exhausted then, you know, if they get to me at 12, because they've been maybe looking at this for years. They're also genuinely their lived experiences. They have tried everything. We would kind of try and roll back that, because I suppose my gut would be, you haven't tried everything probably the right way, and that's not the parents' fault by any.
No, it's just we're all trying to learn.
And it's probably they've been guided incorrectly.
Is it gendered, Dee?
There is a higher percentage for boys.
Really?
I can't remember.
So it's kind of skewed a little bit,
Yeah, and then you would see a higher percentage of girls with daytime, in the sense that that kind of overactive, urgent incontinence a little bit then in that sense. But the busyness of life definitely doesn't help.
I totally agree with that, and I see it when we are busy. It's like, I need to go to the loo, and there's that shame as well of right now, you know, we're in the middle of something, right now, and it's making them calm and comfortable, because there's nothing worse than anyone freaking you out if you need to go to the loo and you're rejected, and like I'm trying to really go, oh my God, Rebecca, they need to go to the toilet, like.
But I'm like the worst model in my house, because I'm the one there going, I'll just peel one more spud, I'll just email one
I know.
more.
It's not a
like,
great...
and then I'm like, you know,
I'm dying to go to the loo.
I'm flying like.
It's like we're trying to fit in so many things, and that's not a priority.
Yeah, and I suppose you are, like, unfortunately, you are their greatest model with all these things, so you're normalising that as, well, it is part of
the worst thing you've ever said. We're the greatest model to them. Well, they're all fucking bunches.
I know, I know. Believe me, I hit myself with that.
It's so funny, you're great. But it's true, like if you're going comfortably, calmly, making time, making space, they're going to learn.
Oh, my 8-year-old absolutely took the mick out of me, because he was in the bathroom and I was like flying now, and I was like, get out. I was like, mine now. And because there was no way I was making it upstairs, like that wasn't going to happen. That like had passed 20 minutes prior to Deirdre go. And he said to me, and he put his hand on my shoulder, because he's smart ass, and he was like, you know, there's a woman that can help you with that.
Oh, so funny. Oh, they have you. So that is brilliant.
And I was like,
there's a lady who can help with you with all your problems. Are you delighted you did your therapy? Is it a great space to be in?
And
is there a lot of people needing this?
It's really become a passion for me. Like I've worked in kind of parent support. I've been self-employed since 2019, and I've always enjoyed that. And then the continence side of things creeped in very quickly around COVID, actually, around the potty training, and then the bedwetting, and then the urotherapy came up. A paediatric urologist actually brought it to my attention, was like, you should go for that. And it has honestly become just such a passion.
I can tell. And your page is huge. If anyone doesn't follow her, you have a massive following of people who are just highly engaged, and that audience are there. I think, if I'm honest, much like sleep training, which is such a word, potty training and toilet training, if I'm really honest, as a mama, and you're a mum too, it's the fear. Like I remember being highly anxious at that conversation, like people like, oh, she's 2.5, 3. And I was just like, how are we going to tackle it? And it's that whole like, let's do it in a weekend, or let's do it on the summer holiday, or it's stressful for mom, and then it's stressful for child, right? So
it's not as advertised. That's the problem. It's a bit like parenting.
None of it is, it's nuanced, right? None of it is just...
And there's no one size fits all. And that's why sometimes as well I say to parents, you know, start maybe with the workshop when you're it's after that then maybe you might need one-to-one, because that's when we can troubleshoot your individual child's maybe challenge or how they're seeing it. And like sometimes like so much of a consultation will be literally trying to figure out the kid and what they're about, what their temperament is like. I find temperament and continence go hand in hand, and if you're not talking about it with a parent, you're missing a piece of your puzzle.
So temperament, how? What kind of children do you see presenting?
So just
nervous, or
like, you know, high achievers.
Okay.
High achievers and guys that are like, you know, worried about keeping everyone happy.
That's so interesting.
Very hard when the emotional pressure of the parent is on you to do with your potty training. And some kids are fly by the seat of your pants, will not care less, and it won't impact them. And in that way then you are missing out a little bit of intrinsic motivation to stay dry or use the potty or whatever. But for a lot of kids it's, you know, that they're like, oh, you happy, mom, I stayed dry, you know, or it's that, you know, different things, those VIPs in their rearing and how they're responding.
Interesting, the pressure.
But it isn't as advertised, potty training.
Well, I do know young boys more than I've heard of girls, and that's just I don't know what that is, circumstantial, but like that are in class and are very young and are pooing themselves, like they're soiling themselves with their peers around them, which is obviously really dangerous for that horrible, you know, kids are cruel, right?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting you say it's the high achievers. Like you think about the boy who's super good at football, super good in class, but it's like that's that one thing they can't control.
Yeah, and like, you know, I think sometimes and this is what I think really frustrates parents, is sometimes we really want an answer. Oh, they were constipated. Oh, they had a sore poo, or they were really scared to get potty training wrong. They really didn't want to have an accident. It was a sensory experience for them they could not cope with. I had a kid recently, and the mom said the first time she pooed in the potty, she turned around and she vomited on it.
Oh, God.
Like, so some kids are just overwhelmed, and it's a massive sensory experience for them. So
some children are delighted to be out in the world with pants on and not going to like they just want to be.
So you can pinpoint all those, this is the cause you like. But what might have started it may not be what is maintaining it, or why it's still occurring, or what's carried it on for 12 months or 2 years or whatever it is. So I think it's really important to take the histories, figure out it was this, that, but what's going on now, and what's the emotional side of it, because the majority of the time it is total dysregulation. Fear. What are the psychological factors?
Stuff going on at home, in school, just stuff? Like, do we see a lot of that?
I think that overcomplicates it, to be honest. I think sometimes for a lot of young kids, it's just like, wow, I am scared.
Yeah.
Just simple as that. Yeah. And then what adds that, and that's where I go with the kind of maintaining piece, is they're scared. And a lot of the time, whether it's wetting or soiling or bedwetting, we join and we mirror the fear, and because we are scared.
Yeah.
We're scared we don't know what to do.
Yes.
We're scared what are they going to say? Sugar, they were going to Granny's at the weekend. You know, she's going to have something to say about this. You know, and what maintains it then is sometimes totally different. So what can start with a sore poo, which would put any of us off wanting to poo again tomorrow, if you're totally emotionally immature, that would double down then on that logic. But what sometimes maintains it is what's going on around us. So us joining in the chaos, us mirroring fear and going, yeah, I'm actually bricking this now because creche, and going, oh, if you start looking like you've diarrhea, you know, these kind of things.
Take them, or?
Yeah, or their judgment at the door. I'm dreading collecting my child now because how many wet underwear am I going to be handed at the door? And that's what sometimes adds.
And this is where you come into that really holistic viewpoint. You're sitting with these parents who are freaking out, and it is a perfect storm.
Yeah.
Got work at meetings, the creche might reject them, I need them to go to creche. Granny won't, 100%.
I did a parent there recently, and when I met them, the child's soiling had got to, he's only a small kid, like he was only out of potty training, and the poos just didn't go well out of potty training. I thought no big deal. The creche had said they couldn't continue, so sent him home. He was at home for 7 weeks.
Stop.
They're full-time working parents. Because
why?
Of soiling. Like, you know...
They wouldn't deal with it?
No.
That's really sad.
That's
really, actually heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I'm not... Listen, creche workers are incredible, and we know that they're probably not paid what they're meant. but also in minding or caring for young children, that's kind of part of the deal, right? Like, I don't mean to be funny, but it's bringing them to the toilet.
Well, no, food, water, bums. You know what I mean? That it's like
that's horrendous.
Yeah, and I just really felt
really hard.
She was also pregnant, so like stuff like that, cases like that are the ones that just set me over the edge.
How did you get it resolved, Dee?
So just basically working on everything. Between clearing the bowel, which is just the mechanics of it, just getting the bowel cleared, but then working on, well, why did it happen in the first place? He was afraid to transition from nappy to potty, so let's get him back up and running slowly with that, in a way that he can survive, because that's what it is for him. He's saying, I literally cannot survive this, so my body's just going to go into shutdown. And that's what I always say to parents is, we just need to meet him where he's at, stop obsessing about the toilet, and find a way that works for him, and eventually, if we've patient enough, will give us the results we need.
Did you help them?
Yeah, he's flying it, and the new baby is here. New baby is here since January. Sweet. But you just, it's like the older guys in bedwetting break my heart, and I think that's because I've a 10-year-old. I've 4, 8, and 10. But when I get the 10 years up, all I ever see is my eldest.
That's sad.
You know, and that really puts the fire under me that I'm like, you know, protect them at all costs.
Yes.
You know, because it's such a hard, life is hard.
And what
enough.
are often
life
the reasons for that kind of pre-puberty? Why would we be in that state at that age?
It would be typically 10 plus I'd be seeing with bedwetting, very rarely soiling. It might be more complex cases with maybe additional needs or other diagnoses that we would see. And
you can get to a place of peace with that, like it can work itself out. Yeah,
and you can't, like, I think it's about getting us out of our fixed ideas
Perfection.
As well. Oh, yeah. You know, and I think with continence as well, you have to be very much open to progress. Like, and you know, sometimes I forget to say it on consults, and then there's some parents I know I have to say it on consults. Then I'm not looking for dry. I'm looking for drier.
Progressive.
Yeah, I'm looking for 6 out of 7 nights, 5 out of 7 nights, or not massive volumes of wee, or, you know, progress. And it's a really resilient mindset to start teaching your kid that, whatever their challenge is, you know, even if it's just the Irish spellings or the hurling or the bedwetting, the best thing we can do to teach our kids is everyone's body is letting them down in some way. Yeah. My eyes should see perfectly, but they don't, so the gas are on.
It's true, we can't have this precision and this.
And they do, because there's so little life experience.
And I presume the worst thing, and we're not shaming parents, but I presume it's really important to note this, no matter how busy and rushed you are and all that, the worst thing you can do is berate, shame, you know, punish or discipline a kid for any of these things. Like, I've seen, and it's unfortunate, but I've also known that these parents were under pressure, parents shouting at their kids who are 3, 4, 5, 6, who have wet or soiled pants going into school or creche, and it's really upsetting to watch, because you're like, oh, you know that this kid isn't trying to be bad.
It is, and I suppose the thing about it is I think we're living in a society now where we've all to pretend we didn't do that.
You mean the fake kind
as
of...
As if, we've never shouted at my kid because they weed on the floor. Like, who hasn't shouted at their kid because they've weed on the floor or spilt milk? Like, we're all supposed to be better than that now, aren't we? It's just, it's
yeah, you're
exhausting.
Right. We never lose it. Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's like, actually a very good point.
You know, I know better in every way.
Yeah.
And I still do all that stuff.
And I have top psychologists on this who are like, they're like, you think our household is perfect, Rebecca? I roared at my kid the other day and had to repair and had to... Yeah. So yeah, I get that. But I think even if we could just be a little bit kinder to the kid who's obviously really struggling, that's 100%. What I mean. I'm not saying we don't roar.
No, and I agree as well. Like, I think there is that misconception that if it's laziness, you know, that might, I'll give them now what for now. But you're probably, if you're doing that, you're probably under the illusion of it being a different cause anyway. Like, you think they're just not bothering.
Or they're bold.
Just being lazy, or he couldn't care less. Like, we have to remember the biggest piece of baggage we carry is what we were reared with. And like, if I was caught holding or running to the toilet, I would have absolutely been told I was just being lazy. Whereas I find it interesting then as well, a lot of kids now are being told, well, he's just so busy and immersed in a thing, but you know, he didn't want to leave.
I was always
it.
told to hold on to it. I remember my mum always being like, you can hold on to it for the car journey to Cork. I'm like, I can't, I need, like, you know, but there was that kind of encouragement.
Yeah.
I felt like I was having to do my Kegels at 12. Like, it was like, hold on. Behaviour specialist, I'm fascinated by this, because I'm always like, this is what I'd love to have done. What is that area of work? So let's just park toilet training for 1 second, urology. Like, what is this area of work?
Well, I guess it is what has led me to that, because there's such an overlap. For me, it was, I did a nursing degree out of school, and I did intellectual disability nursing.
Amazing.
And that's what I got my degree in. And that's
how cool is that?
Basically where I was like literally finished doing the thesis, and I can remember being in UL and Googling, but what
can I do?
Yeah, but what can I do with behaviour? Because
why did you pick additional, like, why that specific area, and did you love it?
I picked nursing because my mum wasn't sure. Myself and my mum and the Leaving Cert, we did it together.
Lol. Lol.
Because I swear we did it together because I found school really difficult, but in two really extreme ways. So I was brilliant.
You're super bright, yeah.
At certain subjects, and then now I mean, as in, could barely pass the pass on other subjects. So like, I was two extremes, which teachers hated back then as well, because I remember specific teachers even saying to my mum, like, you know, she's doing so well in biology, this and this, you know, she clearly is just cheeky and lazy in my class, because I was probably a bit cheeky as well. And, well, especially if I wasn't doing well,
if you weren't passionate about it or weren't doing well, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're all a bit like that.
If the topic didn't compute for me, like, the sass would just be gone.
Yeah.
I was straight out of my mouth. So, but I remember my mum saying to me, you know, whatever, like, I had kind of volunteered and worked in different areas, and you know the way they'd say to you, you'd be a great nurse, you'd be a great nurse, you know, you're great with kids, you're great with people. And I was like, yeah, I would be a good nurse. And I remember my mum saying to me, do the nursing degree, wherever you get it,
then
do the
figure
nursing
it out
degree
after.
Because it's a good base degree.
Yeah.
She goes, and basically, I think we've all come to learn that. I know it's like, we're now 25 years later now, but I think we've all grasped that about the Leaving Cert now, that it is actually about coming out, getting something you can work with in the future. Yeah. She knew that 25 years ago, and she was like, do the nursing degree, you will be a good nurse, but if you don't want to be a nurse, it's a great base science degree.
For lots of things, yeah.
So then I was like, oh, I don't want to do general nursing. I was like, I don't know why, but I was like, I always had worked in those areas and volunteered in areas where it was special needs or autism or things like that. So I was like, I think for me it's probably mental health or intellectual disability. So that's how I ended up there. And literally, I remember doing the last thesis and being on the computer on the other side going, but where am I going now? Because I couldn't see myself going into the Sisters or the Brothers of Charity at 21. It just didn't sit with me to be nodding at the nun coming down the hall to me. And I was like, so I found a master's in behavioural analysis in the UK, and I was like, I'll do that. And that's really, I suppose, I'm kind of pivoting out of that master's ever since to where am I supposed to end up?
Amazing, yeah.
And trying to figure out where the passions lie and stuff. But it was having my first kid and the isolation and the loneliness that really got me here, because we lived in Kildare for my first two kids. I'm from Limerick, but my husband's from Kildare, and it was coming home with my firstborn and going, oh, right, okay. Yeah, everyone said, oh, you'd be a great parent, or, you know, you'd be great. Yeah, great, I'm on my own, and great, he's in work full time, and he'd a job as well. The hours would have been long and funny, and I just realised how actually isolated parents were.
Oh, it's so isolated.
And by the second guy, I was broken by the time I had the second fella, and then I feel he repaired me somewhat, and I just realised, oh, actually everyone's isolated and everyone's in trouble.
Even if you're in a city, if you're going to parenting groups. Yeah, yes.
I just felt like you know, I do think I have something to offer.
Well, that's incredible. You could see that there was like, you know, people needed help.
Like,
what do I have? We're all in bits.
We're all in bits.
We're all looking on Instagram or Googling or trying to find.
Sleep specialists were kind of coming out. Like, I was only just, I think I only found social media really on my first fella because I was so alone. I was like, oh, grown-ups. Never had a Bebo or Facebook, nothing. Got it.
Same. I think I found Instagram on my first because it was great to see other mums have the chat,
and
share.
Anything to just feel less alone. And then, pregnant with the second, we had the conversation that it's probably move to Limerick or get divorced. And at this point,
nice.
We're so isolated.
They're kind of romantic date night chats. You know? Yeah.
It's when you're trying to not hope the neighbours hear you screaming.
I know. It's really, look, it's really hard. And like, I love that you've gone, you know, in my small little way with the podcast is the chats with women, but you literally were like, I can help them. I have an expertise. I'm going to get down and dirty with these people.
Yeah.
Behaviour specialists, like we know there are so many children. I think children are amazing, but that are suffering and struggling and need, and you're literally getting in and helping.
Yeah.
And the mom and dads.
I think one of the
who are
things
cracking up.
We're all going nuts. And I think that's what I felt really strongly about it as well, that I was like, that it's not like behaviour, if you know what I mean, like old fashioned, what we all know, discipline, that it's parent support. Like, what is your challenge? I don't care how small it is or how big it is. Like, we'll figure it out.
Oh, I quite like that.
And that's what I always say to parents.
It's not training, I suppose. It's like parent support.
Yeah, and it's like relative to what your struggle is, because it's going to be different for every house. And some people are really struggling with something and they don't feel it's big enough. Like to act. But if it's affecting your marriage and your relationship with your child,
that's a really key point. Like if it's affecting your work, your marriage, every single thing, your health, maybe your fit, you can't even, because this one kid is like the whole house is kind of dictated. Why wouldn't you get support on that?
Yeah, and it could be just something.
It's great if you can talk to your pals, but they're not going to really be able to help you.
Exactly,
through it,
and you might feel more judged as well.
Yes.
And I think as well we're a generation where we want it evidence based. I think we're like, but what? Who are you and why are you saying that? You know what I mean? Where'd you get that from?
That's really interesting.
You know what? I do think we're an incredibly educated generation of parents, so we do expect a little bit more, and we want to know that it's sound advice. And I suppose it's a bit like even, you know, who you take recommendations off, isn't it? You're kind of like, we don't parent like something, probably not going.
There's a lot of judgment. Like I've noticed if I throw out a story about one of my kids, who are perfect obviously, and it's something that is not a great story, like it's something that maybe it wasn't a great day or something happened, and I'm really happy to share because I ain't perfect at all. Like there's nothing in my house that's perfect. I will notice that kind of like, oh, that's awful. Like, and it's funny, I'm like, I know that you're going through stuff. We're all going through stuff. There's definitely a reticence, like I think people will puke out loads on Instagram and we're all talking about, but when it comes to real life conversations, people really shirk at talking about their kids in bad way. You know, it's funny.
And I think you have your couple of people, don't you, where you can just listen to the total chaos and mayhem that's going on with my kids. But I think Instagram is just its own kind of, it's a great place. Then 6 months of the year I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
But I do find that's where I reach parents.
That's how I found you. I mean, it's funny. All my guests, I've had hundreds, like, well, over. They're all from Instagram, to be fair, and I've made friendships through it. And I love some of the content, but I've had to really curate and block myself on it because it's not perfect. Gee, it's so popular. She's got an appointment now.
I actually
don't worry, we'll cut that
say out. That is to
so
collect
funny.
my kids.
Oh, go on. That is so funny.
I'll turn it off. Sorry.
Well, we're wrapping up now, so don't worry. I'm just gonna.
What were we saying?
I was just saying you're great, I think. I presume I'll let you get settled. Sorry. I presume you're super busy.
Yeah, it is.
Do people
busy.
find you? Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, it was Instagram.
Yeah.
Sorry. How unprofessional.
Not at all. At least you're not texting during the chat.
I have to set an alarm or I'll forget one of my kids.
Oh, I know. Like, stop. I've emails.
Okay, and in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so found you through Instagram. You have a wonderful page and community and engagement there. Are you super busy? Like, are you finding parents are actually really struggling?
Yeah, and I think that's the reality of it. And I think Instagram, like I say, is great, but it's very demanding and it's also very fake for normal parents. I definitely prefer being a professional on Instagram than I would be my parenting self on Instagram, because it's kind of the hill I think I'll die on eventually. We are the first generation to have to literally navigate this whole journey through social media. There's never been a generation before us who have had to watch other people's parenting. You saw it over the fence maybe the odd time.
That's
but
interesting.
this is like in our faces all the time. Our perception of how others parent, the pressure of that.
You're so right. Like when we were growing up and you would see the neighbours, you might go, they seem to have a great family, or you'd see the ones that split, or they seem to have split, or you'd see the cousins that
Look
killed
at
each
their
other.
car, look at their holiday.
Sure, and you saw it, but you didn't really know, right? So you'd have your own little, and that's dangerous too, because you probably make up your own mind, where you're right, we're being fed a family dynamic and a family unit. And like...
It's the worst, because I think we are the ones who are going to have to learn the hard way. But it takes time to learn, and we all learn at different stages. So, like, it's the perception, and I try and I would put very minimal amount of personal stuff up.
100%.
And I remember recently, what I tend to try and do is like a weekend roundup, because I think it is nice to share something of you.
Yes.
But we had a really bad week recently with the whole family, extended family and everything. And then I was away that weekend because it was all booked and paid for. There was no getting out of it. But I refused to do a weekend roundup.
Because you're like, it wasn't good.
Because I was like, I'm not going to put up, oh, here we are off in Galway in this fancy hotel after the
shit show.
Disaster that was the entire week, because it's false. Like, you know what I mean?
It is false. Like,
and
I used to spew my guts about my family and stuff and my fertility, and I learned the lesson the hard way.
Me too.
Where I am so deeply private about my marriage and my kids now, and I'll pop up something that's very, to be honest, a bit kind of incidental, like a kid playing a game, and it's lovely and it's fine, but it's also not giving you what their needs are, how good and bad they are, how fabulous they are at anything. I'm trying to really
give
just
more.
Yeah, I'm very conservative and protective, because I also don't want it to bite them in the ass, me in the ass. I just think it's nobody else's business. And I think it's great you can come on and do parenting podcasts, but I've never claimed to be an expert.
Yeah. I'd probably be quicker to divulge personal information here than I would Instagram, because I think it's
Well, we got you. So anything you want to share with the audience? I presume you're one of very few urotherapists in the country.
Yes, myself and another girl, Niamh Watkins, are the only two to have done the course.
How incredible
so
is
far.
that?
Yeah,
well
we
done.
did it together. So.
And we're struggling with this. There's so many mamas, like I could get into it now, but there's so many mamas I know who are struggling with toilet training, bedwetting, constipated kids, all of this. Like, we need help with this.
Yeah, and we have some great clinical nurse specialists in urology and continence in Ireland. They're just hard to get to because they're in the public sector. You know, to try and get into Crumlin or Temple Street, you know, is the whole referral, triaging,
it's a process,
you know, get the referral, reject the referral thing. So it's not like we've never, I suppose, had some version of continence support. Obviously we do, but it's the private access and it's the education piece of being able to access a course is what I think is the big difference. My whole bit is that, like, I want a parent who is eager for education, wants to help their child, can literally press, go add to cart, do the course. There's no, you don't have to, you know, you don't have to wait 6 months. And then you can self-refer for one-to-one as well. And obviously, it differs then, everyone's resources and budgets are different, but I think with the courses it does make it super accessible because it doesn't matter where you live or what your status is in this country, we're all struggling with the same problems.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? You can't, there's no
it doesn't matter your socioeconomic background, we're all struggling. Deirdre Holland Hannon, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. She travelled all the way up here, and I know that there's been so many people asking for this chat, so thank you for coming on.
Thank you.